Hi, and welcome back to the channel. Before I knew I was an HSP, and indeed before I even knew what the term HSP meant, I always felt like my emotional and energy battery drained down a lot faster than most people. And I used to get discouraged by that, but I would tell myself that I bring a lot of energy and focus into every interaction that I have. So I just rationalized that maybe that's why my battery ran down so quickly. Yeah, it turned out it wasn't that at all. I was always perplexed and quite frankly envious of people, you know these people that get up at 7 in the morning, they go put in a full day of work and they leave with the bounce in their step and they go out for drinks with friends and then they run a few errands and go home and cook dinner and work out and meditate and they're in bed by 11 and then they get up the next day and do it all over again. Not for all the money in the world could I live my life like that. While other people are living that way, I'm taking a bunch of time to do a myriad of mental gymnastics in my head, trying to figure out how I'm going to schedule in enough downtime to get that number of activities done in a day. And it's not like I ever thought there was something wrong with me. It wasn't the case. But I just couldn't understand how so many people can go through their lives like that. And I just could not take on that level of activity without feeling like my head was going to implode. Enter the discovery that I was an HSP. And as I've mentioned before, this was life-changing for me. HSPs process more sensory input. We think harder, we feel deeper, and of course, that is going to require more energy, particularly when it's over and over and over again in the course of a day. And when I say I'm an HSP, I am not kidding. If you take Elaine Aron's quiz, and I'll put a link to that in the first comment down below. I don't remember how many questions are on that quiz, but I scored the equivalent of 99 out of 100. So discovering that, picture the skies opening up and a host of heavenly choirs singing. That's what it felt like when I learned what HSP was and why it made me the way that I am. My nervous system just gets saturated faster than most other people's. And since that day, almost 20 years ago now, I have spent a lot of time analyzing how I am wired, what things impact me, and coming up with strategies so I can coexist with the rest of the world. And here's what I've learned. You're not going to change who you are, but there are tips and strategies that you can implement, that I have implemented, that will help you deal with the energy drain that you probably are feeling way too often. So let's get into those. Number one, very simply, accept what is. Accept the fact that you're wired differently. It doesn't mean you're wrong or flawed. I look at it as people who are left-handed versus right-handed. Left-handed people are the minority in the population, but we don't look at them and say, oh, they're flawed. I have a left-handed mother and a brother and a daughter, and we don't love them any less or treat them any differently because they are left-handed. We just, sit them at the end of the dinner table so they don't bump elbows. Same thing with being an HSP. This is an overused phrase, but in this case, it's appropriate. This is the classic definition of it is what it is. Stop fighting it and trying to be like the 85% of the world. You are swimming against the tide. It is exhausting, and it's only going to make life harder for you. So, number one, accept what is. This is your wiring. Let's implement some other strategies so that you can peacefully coexist in the world. Number two, learn what drains you specifically. Not all HSPs are created equal. And I can't give you a list that says these are the situations that will drain you, because it's different for each one of us. What drains you may energize me. So you have to really tune in to yourself and ask yourself, what is it that drains you? Get clear on the activities, the situations, and events that zap you. For me, it's rushing. It's having to go from activity to activity to activity in the course of a day where I don't have time to process each thing that I'm doing. I don't like to be overscheduled. I don't do well in crowds. I don't do well when I'm away from my routines for a long time. As an HSP, I have put together routines so that I'm better able to handle how I show up in the world. And if you want me to do a video about my specific routines, put a comment down below and I will put that together for you. And then the other thing that pushes my HSP buttons is extensive exposure to problem solving. I am a very good problem solver, as are many HSPs, because we can dive into all different angles of a situation and process it deeply and come up with a solution. I'm very good at problem solving, but that doesn't mean I can do it all the time and be on all the time. Sometimes I just need a break from people coming to me with situations that need a solution. Otherwise, I just kind of feel like a limp piece of spaghetti. Number 3, and this is one that a lot of us forget about, determine what's worth it. Just because an event drains you emotionally doesn't mean it's not enjoyable. And sometimes you have to pick the events that you know are going to drain you excessively, but they're worth it. They are so enjoyable in the moment that you're experiencing them that you're willing to sacrifice the future you, that you're going to need some downtime right after that. Now, here's a case in point. I don't get to see my friend Mark as often as I would like to. We don't live close to each other anymore. So when I am back in my hometown, Mark and I inevitably get together. And here's what that looks like. Usually it means I spend a great portion of the day cooking dinner. And then he comes over and we have dinner and we sit down and we will talk till 1, 2 o'clock in the morning. And it's awesome. However, the next day, I am good for nothing. I don't schedule any activities on the day after Mark and I get together because I have almost like a hangover. I'll end up going to bed at 2:30 in the morning. And then it takes me a long time to fall asleep because Mark and I have deep conversations. So my brain is going and it's processing everything. So it's probably, 4 o'clock before I fall asleep. And then my cats wake me up at 6:30 because they want their breakfast and they don't care what I was doing the night before. So on the day after Mark and I get together, I inevitably have, it feels like a hangover. I have a headache, I'm tired, and I'm not a napper. I would love to be a napper, but I just don't seem to be able to fall asleep during the day. And usually I've eaten too much rich food from the night before, and so I'm good for nothing. Is it worth it? Abso-freaking-lutely it is. And I just don't schedule anything for that day after we get together. The other thing that's just a quick little aside that might be a sub tip to this tip is I also stopped drinking when I get together with Mark. I've never been a big drinker, and I just found that when I drank even a little bit of wine in conjunction with the lateness of the evening and the heavy food, it just made that sluggish feeling the next day worse. And since I'm not a big drinker, it just wasn't important to me to keep that in the mix. So pretty much whenever I hang out with people, I really don't drink at all. I'm still emotionally hungover and drained the next day, but at least it's not exacerbated by booze. Just decide what's important enough to you that you don't want to give up, and then figure out some way to mitigate the negative consequences so that you can still participate in the thing that brings you joy, and you understand and accept the fact that you'll probably be down for the count for a little while after that, but it's worth it. So decide which things for you are worth it and then proceed accordingly. Number 4, know your daily rhythms. Get very clear on what parts of the day you have high energy and schedule your activities accordingly. Now, for me, I am good for nobody before 9 o'clock in the morning. As I mentioned, I get up around 6:30, I feed my cats, I have my own breakfast, and then that time from 7-ish to 9 is my quiet time. And by 9 o'clock, I have showered, I'm ready to face the day, and I have a goodly amount of energy at that point of the day. And that sustains me pretty much all the way until maybe 2, maybe 3 in the afternoon. So through lunch, and then after lunch, of course, I eat lunch, and then I have a higher energy level after that. And then I start to wane around 4 o'clock in the afternoon and wind down. And By the evening, the only thing I'm good for is sitting on the couch and watching reruns of the practice with my cats and my husband. I know that this is my rhythm. Now, this makes evening events challenging for me. So if I know I'm going to have something where I have to be on in the evening, I try to compensate for that in advance by at least resting in the afternoon. If I can't take a nap, I can at least put my feet up and rest for a little bit. I understand that my energy is a finite resource and I have to keep some in reserve for these types of events. And ditto time of year rhythms. When it gets cold for me and the darkness sets in early, I know that in particular at that time of the year, my evening energy level is going to be even lower than it normally is. And I just plan for that. Tip number 5, allow for white space. White space and negative space are design terms that I've kind of stolen for HSP usage. And basically what it means is it's a counterbalance to items, whether it's items on a page or furniture in a room, but you have some empty space to counterbalance physical objects. And you know what an overcrowded room does to your mindset, or an overcrowded page or an overcrowded website. I don't know about you, I just check out and can't deal with how much stuff is coming at me. And because you never know when one of those situations is going to occur, it helps if you can build what I think of as white space into your daily life. And here's some examples of that. I may limit my social engagements to 1 or 2 a week, because anything more than that is just not worth my energy investment. I may tell myself, if I'm going to an event ahead of time, I may tell myself what time I'm going to leave that event. That expression, leave them wanting more, yeah, that was designed for us. That was designed for HSPs. Leave before you're exhausted, before you're drained, and you'll find that social events are a lot more enjoyable for you. Take care of the needs that you can control. If I know I'm going into a highly charged event, I make sure that other aspects of my energy that I can control are taken care of. I make sure I'm well hydrated. As I mentioned, I don't drink a lot or really at all. There's just no sense in adding more discomfort to a situation. Take care of the needs you can address. If you're going out for a winter hike with somebody and you're freezing cold because you didn't dress appropriately, it's going to spoil the entire hike for you because you didn't bring the right gear. If you're not hungry, if you're not thirsty, and you know where the bathrooms are, that's half the battle. Number 6, don't hesitate to change course midstream if you have to. This was a challenging one for me, and I think the reason that I've been able to adopt it as a viable strategy is because I am married to an HSP who is also very understanding about the fact that I sometimes just need to check out. So I've gotten very good at sensing my HSP-related anxiety. And the drill goes something like this. I start feeling that feeling, so I ask myself, what am I feeling? Is it HSP related or is it something else? Putting a label on it comforts me. It reminds me that this is the way I am genetically. It's not because I'm flawed in some way. So once I can put a label on it that, oh yeah, this is me being an HSP, it's kind of like the same way a southpaw would say, yep, this is me being left-handed, no big deal. What am I going to do about it? And then I ask myself, what tools do I have in my toolbox right now to deal with this? Can I take a 10-minute break? Can I do some stretching? Play some music that I find soothing? Can I tell the person I'm with that I need to check out? Do I need some time with my cat? Do I need to eat or drink something? What do I need to allow this situation to improve? And if none of those are going to work, I do now consider extricating myself from the situation. And I do so in a very polite and respectful way toward the people that I'm with. And I let them know, well, most people in my circle would know already, but I would let them know that it has nothing to do with them and that I'm perfectly fine with them staying on and continuing their participation in whatever the event is, but that I have had enough and that I need to go home and get some downtime. And by the way, if you can't do that, I understand there's not always times where you can check out. Suppose you came in the same car as somebody, or it's something that you have to be involved in. I totally understand that you can't always check out. When that happens, what helps me is to remind myself, this is temporary. Within an hour or 2, you will get your downtime, or maybe it's the next morning, but it's a temporary state of affairs. And that alone is sometimes enough to soothe me and give me the energy and the wherewithal to continue participating in whatever the event is. The town that I live in has summer concerts in the town square every weekend in summer. And I normally love them. But one time last summer, I don't know what had gone on during the day. Something had set off my buttons and I wasn't even aware of it. And my husband and I went to the concert, and the concert hadn't even started yet. And I could just feel right away there were just people in front of me walking too slowly, and I constantly had to shoulder my way through. There were vendor booths, and there was just too many people drinking and too many people eating, and just too many people. And I could feel my stomach starting to get into that HSP knot that tells me the rest of the evening is not going to go well. So I told Jeremy that I had to bow out, and he stayed. Luckily, Jeremy's very good about doing things on his own. So he stayed, I went home, and everything was fine. Which brings me to number 7. Choose the people you spend your time with wisely. I have HSPs in my life. I have non-HSPs in my life. I have given birth to non-HSPs. And I have surrounded myself with these people who are very understanding of my needs, and they do not take it personally when I say, okay, this is what I need to do for me right now. Don't let a lot of people into your orbit that are going to give you a hard time about that. All that's going to do is drain your energy faster. Surround yourself with people who understand that this is what you need to do. They are invaluable. Number 8, plan your events strategically. If you've been an HSP your entire life, and you probably have been, you know what triggers you. Don't plan back-to-back events that have a high probability of draining your energy. It's not going to end well. And don't think you have to say yes all the time. Plan your events strategically. Number 9, know what fuels you. This might be the most important tool in your toolbox. Determine what fills up your emotional tank and schedule those activities as much as you can. For many HSPs, it's being in isolation, it might be reading, it might be stretching, it might be some yoga, it might be listening to music, but you know what the events are that start to build you back up. It could be hanging out with your pets, creative pursuits, a hike in nature, whatever it is, keep your tank topped off as much as you possibly can, because then when you go into situations that are energy drainers, you go in with a full tank. And number 10, don't compare yourself to others, not non-HSPs, not other HSPs. Comparison is the Achilles heel for HSPs. Our unique nervous system means we process things differently than other people. So comparing yourself to others is a process for feeling really crummy and really defeated. A normal day for a non-HSP is probably going to feel overstimulating to you and me. So don't compare yourself to other people. It's not apples to apples. And you're going to end up feeling inadequate when you needn't be feeling inadequate, because there's nothing wrong with you. Not to mention, whenever you compare yourself to somebody, you're comparing your messy insides with their polished outside that they present to the world. And again, that's not apples to apples. So don't do it. It's not a fair fight. In summary, just remember this one thing. The world is not set up to accommodate HSPs. The world is set up to accommodate the 80% of the population who are non-HSPs. Don't pressure yourself to adhere to social obligations that aren't in line with how you're wired. As an HSP, you're going to need more sustainable solutions, and hopefully these tips will help you. If you have an insider tip on how you cope with feeling overly drained, please put it in the comments, because I have found that tips and advice from self-aware HSPs is just invaluable to the rest of us. So go ahead and leave a comment. Tell us which structures you've implemented into your life so that you can better cope with the other 80%. And if you want to join an interactive community that offers tips, strategies, and ideas for living life as an HSP, please consider liking and subscribing. We would love to have you. Until then, we'll see you next time. Bye.